Okay, I think we are all set. So if you can hear me, just let me know. Say hi. Welcome to everyone who's checking in from all over the world. I see Australia, all over the States, Norway, Hawaii, which I guess is also the States, but you know, you're off off the mainland, so it feels a little different. I see also guests from Alberta or others from Canada. So welcome everybody. I see some familiar names as well. I'm going to switch my camera over here and make sure everything's working. And I think we are, there we go. It sounds like you guys can hear me. So that's great news. Welcome. It's an amazingly foggy day here in Dawson Creek. And we don't get fog very often. I've lived here for most of my life and off and on anyhow, and definitely the past 20 years, and we really rarely have fog, so I'm feeling like we're kind of off in Vancouver or something, just with the different weather. And we're going to move fairly quickly into our lesson today. And I just see people popping up all over from all over the country, all over the world, and welcome. It is so cool to be able to have you here in my studio, taking a class with me, even though none of you would actually fit. I don't have room for 150 people or 200, so it's just cool that we can get together like this. And I'll try to keep an eye on the chat as I teach so that I can answer your questions, although I'm going to focus on presenting the lesson and then try to answer some questions toward the end. First of all, I want to just show you my scarf, and I'm not very good at scarves. They're not an accessory I wear very often, but this scarf is really special, and if you look at it, you might see something familiar about it. I'm going to back up so you can see more of it. There we go. It's a cashmere and silk scarf, and you're just seeing a piece of it. But this is actually one of my paintings, and I'm so excited to be able to wear one of my paintings. This is my painting Flight of Fancy, which was actually named by one of my Facebook fans. Gave me the great title for that painting, and I love how it looks as a piece of wearable art. I wore it to church last Sunday, and as I was sitting there, I kept seeing little bits and pieces of color that you don't see necessarily, you don't focus on when you're looking at it on the wall, but as I was wearing it, I'd just be drawn to these different beautiful areas of color, and it's really cool when you have a smaller painting, and then here it's something enormous, and it looks still beautiful as it's been enlarged and then made into this beautiful scarf. And so I'm very happy with seeing something, and I never wanted to put my art on a t-shirt, because that's not really a great fit for the type of watercolor that I do, but to have it as a classy and beautiful piece of something you can wear is really special. And I do have a link in the description for this video if you want to order your own. It's available online. So that's kind of cool and exciting for me anyhow. And I've gotten lots of compliments already. So we're gonna go right into our lesson here, and I'm going to start by just sharing a little bit of opening information. Again, like I said, in the description below the video, there are not just links to the to where you can buy the scarf, but different helpful links that can help you to things I refer to during the class. My new course, Creative Watercolor Techniques, kicked off last week, and I've had a great response. I believe we're up around 200 students enrolled in that, which is it's a nice number for an early launch of a new class. And the feedback I'm getting is very good. It's people are saying, for someone who is wanting to try use watercolor in non-traditional ways, there's lots of ideas in there. And that course is half price. It's 50% off until November 18th. As well, I'm linking up to my Craftsy course, and I'll talk about why a little later in the lesson. And the Craftsy course is available for 50% off as well. So you'll want to take a look at the description. There's links down there, and that'll give you everything you need to know. You also can enter to win free enrollment in Creative Watercolor Techniques. And if you've already purchased the course and you happen to be the person who wins, I refund your enrollment fee. It's not like you have to wait and see if you're going to win before enrolling in the course. So just so you know that. We're going to move right into talking about values. And I think I've talked about them before in a previous live class because I have, let's see here. I have this little value sketch which I did in one of our previous live lessons, and just a single color painting the scene to see how it all looks just as one black, like kind of black and white single color. So I really think value studies are more important even than choosing the right color for your painting, and we're going to talk about why. And I actually have a little note to go along with it. When I talk about values, first of all, if that's not a term you're familiar with, when I say values, what I'm referring to is the range of light and dark in a painting. So if you were to convert your painting to black and white, the white area would be your lightest value, any black in there would be your darkest value, and then you've got all these different ranges, shades of gray in between. And of course, most of us don't want to paint in black and white. We want to use color. And so a lot of times especially when you're first starting out, you might make the mistake of thinking that values aren't very important, that you're focusing on your color. And so really thinking about your painting in terms of black and white and gray isn't something you're going to think about a lot. And yet value is what makes a painting pop, what makes it stand out. Think of the dramatic colors of a zebra as opposed to maybe the more neutral tones of a deer, an animal that's designed to blend in and really fade into the background. And of course, zebras blend in on the savannah because animals see in black and white and all that, but we don't need to go there. But the idea is here we have strong contrasts that are very eye-catching. And whether or not you're painting in black and white or color, it's those contrasts that provide the drama in your painting, that make your painting something that somebody might glimpse from across the room and come in closer to see. When you're standing on the other side of a room, and I often do this when I go to my local art gallery, I'll go to my local art gallery, and what I always do is I look at every painting twice. We have our art galleries in a converted grain elevator, and it's got a ramp that goes up around the walls of the building. And so as you go up this ramp, you're quite close to the paintings. The ramp is only, 6-8 feet wide, and so you're never more than 6 feet away from a painting, and usually closer. And so you'll see every painting from up close. But whenever I'm in the art gallery, when I go back down the ramp to the entrance of the building, instead of looking at the paintings that are right close to me, I look at the one that's across the room, on the other side of the ramp, on the other side of the room. And it's amazing how some paintings will just jump out at you. They'll grab you from the other side of the room, and you're like, I have to see that up close. And while up close looking at a painting up close, you'll admire the technical skill and the color choices and the subject matter. From across the room, you don't get to see any of that stuff unless the painting's really big. From across the room, what you're gonna see is the value. You're gonna see those contrasts. And when you have a painting that has strong contrasts, it's gonna call out to you. You're gonna wanna come closer and see it. And I've learned over the years that I want my painting to be something that calls out to somebody from across the room. Not every painting, not every art gallery is set up the way ours is, where you're going up the ramp and you're not missing anything. Sometimes, you're just breezing through, and you're going to go closer to see something from across the room, if that makes sense. So we want to have those strong contrasts. We want our paintings, we want our art to be something that has an impact. And when we plan our contrasts by paying careful attention to value, we have a stronger painting because of it. And I'm going to show you a visual example here. Here's a photo. If I can. Sorry, we lost the sound for a second. I'm gonna just have to tweak for a second. Okay, you saw my landscape photo. For some reason there was no sound. Oh, I know how I can fix that. Okay, now you should have sound and picture. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so here we have my landscape photo that I took. This is a walk I took in the Peace region where I live in the spring. And very neutral, lots of neutrals in this image. And we have it's very, right away when you're looking at a painting like this or a photo like this, you start thinking, yeah, sorry about the sound, guys. I had a little glitch in when I changed screens, it turned my mic off. Okay, so right away I'm starting to think about what colors I would use, but really what I should be thinking about is the values. And what values what does it look like when I convert it to black and white? There we go. So here we have the same image in black and white, and you can see that, there we go, almost lost it. So you can see now that with it in black and white, there's not a lot of contrast here. Everything's kind of in this middle gray range. So it's feeling like if I were to stand across the room, there's not a lot of darks to draw you into this image. And so were I to try to paint this, even if I were to go to, choosing some dynamic colors, if I were to stay true to the values in my original reference photo, it's gonna be pretty bland. The values are weak, there isn't a lot of contrast there. Now, of course, with the magic of Photoshop, I can play with my photo a little bit and I can push those contrasts. So here's one, the same photo where I've increased the contrast. And so what it's done is it's made the darks darker, it's made the lights lighter. And so now suddenly I'm getting a stronger value pattern. And it's still not a fantastic image for strong contrasts in value, but as an artist, this is something that I would try to do, is make sure that my darks stay dark and my lights stay light so that I have a strong contrast in between them. So, maybe I'd push. So, and sometimes doing that little tweaky thing in Photoshop can really help you to see those values better instead of getting distracted by all the colors. And and really the color matters much less than the values we're using. So there's just a little look at starting to think in terms of value. And I know it's a lot to think about when you're new to painting and you're focusing so much on technique. It's very hard to take all these different subjects, these different aspects of painting, and compartmentalize them and keep them in the forefront of your mind when you're focusing on just creating good painting. But when we fix our mind on where are the darks and the lights in this image, and that's what I said earlier about planning. Right down towards the bottom of my list here. In watercolor, our values have to be planned for. And this is because in watercolor, our lightest values are the white of the paper. And so if we paint over the white of the paper, we lose our light values. And so it's very important to plan, to know where your lights and darks are, and to work them into your painting and not lose focus and get distracted by color and texture and so forth. Value kind of needs to come first. And one thing I didn't mention, I didn't really touch on, is values are relative. Values are relative because if you have a painting with a ton of light values, there, of course, any little bit of dark that goes in there is going to be, if values are relative. If you have lots of light value in an image, anything slightly darker is going to be your darkest dark. So it doesn't have to be black to be your darkest value. It doesn't have to be white to be your lightest value. It really just depends on what the other values are in the image. So I'm going to move my camera right now. We're going to go right over to the painting to my painting table here, and we'll just do a little bit of work with some value studies. And this is something I like to do before I start a big serious painting, is do my planning so I don't lose those light values, so I know where my dark values need to go. Because if you don't place them correctly, it can be very distracting for your viewer. Just moving over my camera, that'll take a second here. I'll give you guys something else to look at while I move the camera. For some reason it doesn't want to go in place the way it usually does. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so here's my work surface. And this is the value study I did in a previous lesson. And you can see, and it doesn't feel as complete as it could. I could tweak the darkest darks a little bit more. And anytime we push those contrasts, in fact, let's do that right now. Just grab my brush. And what the color I like to use the most for painting value studies is Payne's Gray. It's nice and dark. It doesn't granulate overly much, but it does provide those good contrasts that we need. So with the Payne's Gray, I can decide to place some stronger darks maybe over here. This might draw the eye toward the center of the painting. And then I might fade it away over along here. And just move that color around a little bit. And the thing about doing a value study is it really gives you that chance to plan, and it keeps you from hopefully making a mistake that's going to ruin a painting that you've worked on for hours. When you have that little bit of planning done, it helps you focus your mind on the important stuff. And we get very easily distracted once we start using color and developing our painting further. So it's very helpful to use those value studies to help you kind of have a roadmap to where you want to go in your painting. I have another photo here, and this is just a landscape photo that I took in Waterton National Park, which is attached to Glacier National Park in Montana. It's the Canadian side of the same park. We visited there a couple of years ago. I'd love to go again. And whenever I'm painting a value study, I want to first plan notice where my white values are. And of course here my lightest colors are the snow in the mountains and the clouds in the sky. And so I'd want to paint around those. So maybe it's just a matter of painting kind of that medium light value that the sky holds, and leaving some whites for my clouds. And the brush I'm using today is my Escoda Versatile number 10 Rigger, which people keep telling me is sold out all over the place. So you might have to do a little searching or get yourself on a waiting list for it. I've ordered a bunch from Dick Blick in the past. And at some point they're going to clue in that everybody likes this brush, and they'll make sure they're stocking more of them. But right now they are a little bit hard to find. And my sky actually feels quite dark to me, so I'm going to blot with a paper towel to lighten a little bit. And that looks better to me. I want my sky to be fairly light. It's damp enough that I can touch it in a little bit darker. There we go. And then we look at our image again. And the best way, if you have a photo that maybe you haven't converted to black and white and you want to see those values well, try squinting at it. As soon as you start squinting at something, you lose the detail and you have less light coming in your eyes, so you're seeing things just a little bit differently, and squinting just helps bring those values to the forefront. And you know what's also really light in this image, where there's a lot of contrast, is in the water. There's shadows on the water, and there's reflections on the water, and that gives us a great deal of light and dark contrast. So maybe I'd want to go in with my brush. And you don't have to use a brush either. You don't have to paint it if you prefer to sketch. I actually have this set of Winsor & Newton pigment markers, and they're in 6 tones of gray, and I find they can be a lot of fun to use for sketching, just to get those, establish those shapes and do a loose sketch of your image. And I'm going to keep my reflections on my water almost near to white, I think. Very light. They're lighter, it seems to me they seem lighter than the sky, so I want to have some really bright reflections in there. And remember, we can feel free as artists to push those contrasts a little bit. We don't have to be right on what our photo tells us. We can exaggerate our contrasts to create even more dynamics in our painting. And I enjoy doing that to make my paintings just that much more impactful, I guess would be kind of the right term. The very darkest colors I'm seeing are in my trees along the just kind of along the shoreline. So I'm going to just put those in very loosely. And then the next darkest values are in my nearest mountains. The mountains further away have lighter values. So we're going to paint those darker tones. And if they seem too similar to this, to the tree line area, I can darken that area up once I've established my shapes in my near mountains. And because this is a sketch, I don't need to wait in between, wait for color layers to dry. I'm just trying to really establish where my lights and darks are to provide that roadmap for the bigger, more, the bigger full color, serious painting. And even a serious painting, I usually try to tell myself is a sketch the first time or two that I paint it, because for me, it's very important to be interpretive in my landscapes. I don't want to just copy photos. I want to put my own style and personality into them. And in order to do that, I really have to give myself room to kind of develop what I think is important about the scene and what I want to say. So there, I just used a little bit of a more medium value right in that farther mountain. And I can go now again with maybe some more Payne's Gray, pure Payne's Gray, just to darken up my foreground a little bit. And you can see I have basically a loose map of the values in my photo. Put it side by side. And I really think how closely tied to the values you are is going to depend on what kind of painter you are. Personally, I never want my painting to own me, so that's why I'm not pulling out value scales, which you can purchase or may even make your own, where you have the range of tonal values and you can compare your value scale to your image, try to match it up and get every value kind of rated on a scale from 1 to 10. And that's not really my way. I really want to be free to interpret a little bit, to strengthen, to exaggerate values where I want more impact. Remember that when you have those strong darks, especially when they're contrasted with light areas, for example, this mountain with the darker value and the white snow, those are going to really pull the eye into the painting. All those little white spaces provide contrast against the darker colors. So that's where your contrasts come from. And whether or not you're using, a black and white or color, you're going to be working with values. It doesn't mean, as soon as you pull the colors out, it doesn't mean the values go away. They're still there. And so you have to be aware that those values are going to matter. And if you choose a color that's perfectly lovely, but it's a dark color beside another dark color, it's not going to stand out the same way it would if it was contrasted with a color in a different value range. If that makes sense. just taking a look at everybody's questions here. That's why I'm silent for a second, just reading on. All right, just looking at the questions. So yeah, just being aware of your values makes a big difference in how you interpret your painting. And I think you want to have an idea going in where you need to put those strong darks and the contrasts. I mentioned that I have a 50% off link to my Craftsy course. My Craftsy course is called Better Paintings with Watercolor Sketching. And the course is develops this whole idea of values and working out a painting just that much further. What I do in the course is we travel through taking one reference photo and figuring out the best way to interpret it into a full painting by doing multiple sketches that explore value, color temperature, different aspects of color theory, and then line and shape and sketching it in different ways. And I'm really proud of that course because it really contains almost everything that I knew at the time about watercolor. We filmed it last year, and of course as an artist I'm always growing and changing my approach. I don't always sketch every single reference photo in this way, but I've always found that the more preparation I put into a painting, the more confident my result is going to be, and that confidence really comes through in the completed painting. So do check out the links in the description for that course for half price. My Creative Watercolor Techniques course is also half price. And we're going to be talking about values more in future lessons. I have this whole new thing I'm doing with value sketches that I'm excited to show you guys hopefully next week. But if I learn something new and exciting between now and next week, I might change my topic and share that instead. I always think it's cool to be able to share with you guys what I'm most excited about right at the current time. I also have I also cover value studies in some of my other courses online. I believe Loose and Fluid 2 has some value study work, as well as I talk about it a lot because I really think so often we get so focused on mixing the right colors instead of thinking about what value those colors should be, where they should be placed for the maximum impact and contrast. I don't have the link for the brush in the description right now. I didn't throw a supply link in there, but I will put that up here in the next 20 minutes or so. So watch for that. And I want to encourage you, if you have not signed up for my giveaway right now, you're going to want to do that. And the link is in the description as well. I am giving away a watercolor kit. It's going to be a palette full of paint, just like this palette here, only much cleaner. And my favorite brush, my Escoda Versatile number 10 Rigger, and as well as a pad of Arches watercolor paper, and of course lifetime free enrollment to Creative Watercolor Techniques, which is my new online course at learn.angelafehr.com. Yeah, values. It's a whole learning process. Training your mind to see things in terms of value, it's just going to it takes time, and you might not feel ready for it either. If you're just starting to get a grasp on watercolor techniques, your brain's going to be busy thinking about how to use the different techniques that you've learned. So give your brain time to absorb all that, and then you'll find yourself thinking naturally about values more and more. And sometimes it's just a matter of when you're looking at a painting and thinking, why isn't this working the way it should? Think about the values. Think, is there something that should be darker or contrast more against, maybe my focal point needs more contrast. And if those are things you're looking for, it might help you to be able to make a painting work more effectively. Just taking a look at everybody's comments. I'm enjoying seeing them. I have a tendency to fear the dark colors. That's never been my problem. I have a tendency to go for the light colors or cover over my light colors always right away. And It'll get very dark very quickly. So I always envy the people who are able to create beautiful, soft, pale washes without just going for full-on color immediately. That is just not who I am. And there we go. So yeah, thanks for coming today, you guys. I had fun sharing what I know about values, and sometimes it doesn't feel like enough most of the time because it's something I'm still working on, learning to see things in terms of value. Of course, today with all the fog, it almost feels like I'm living in a black and white world. But yeah, just just think about it. Even if you're not thinking about it full time as you're painting, spend a few minutes thinking about it before you start painting. Where are my darks? Where are my lights? And then just trying to remember that. Keep it simple. Simplify down to 3 values: a dark, a light, and a mid value, and work with that. It doesn't have to be this big complicated range of values. And yeah, thanks for coming. Again, I'll be updating the description with the links to the brushes I used today. We didn't really talk a lot about paper or anything, so I won't worry about that. Although I always do have supplies and link recommendation, watercolor supply recommendations on my website, angelafehr.com. And yeah, just thanks guys for joining me today. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and bye for now.